No worries. No worries. Good. All right, crew. Happy Saturday. I mean, it's a good day to be alive, I guess. Um, anybody got anybody watching the college basketball games? No basketball. Oh, man. All right. Well, anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about design and forward-facing design here. How many people in our group are juniors in college? Juniors, excellent. Seniors? How many people are considering staying in Las Vegas to teach? Super cool. All right, cool. So we're gonna talk a little bit about design. We're gonna demonstrate some ideas about design as well. As we're kind of walking through our little presentation here, what I want you to kind of keep in mind is this quote. And Erwin Schrödinger, if you're not familiar, physicist, Schrodinger's cat, if you've ever heard of Schrodinger's cat, he's the guy who came up with that thought experiment. But I kind of keep this quote in the back of my mind to start weeks in that he's not saying look forward for new problems. He's like, look at what you have in front of you and figure out how to make those things. How do you find the magic in the mundane, the things that you pass all the time, right? Oftentimes we're looking for like this magic solution in the air where oftentimes it's right in front of us, right? So keep that in mind as we go through our little conversation today. All right, and we're gonna use this kind of like a narrative arc. So we're gonna start with exposition as usual, some background, some setting up the story. And I am Mike Lang. I am an 18-year-old vet, not 18-year-old, that would make me like perhaps not qualified to give this talk, but 18-year veteran. I retired from the Clark County School District last year before last. After 18 years, I did my first 2 years in Pascagoula, Mississippi, right on the water. Did a third year in Taiwan, so I taught English in Taiwan. If you have the opportunity to teach abroad, do so. It will kind of give you a better understanding of how the American system is the only way we do this, right? And then the last 15 years I spent here in Las Vegas in CCSD in multiple roles. I was a classroom teacher, I was a digital learning coach, et cetera, et cetera. And Apple Distinguished Educator. Anybody use iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, all that kind of stuff. So there's a designation for people who have mastered, I use that loosely, the integration of Apple technology into classrooms. I am one of those individuals. PBS Digital Innovator. The Clark County School District is one of the only school districts that owns a PBS affiliate. So you have the opportunity. Vegas PBS is right on Flamingo. Really, really cool opportunities to do stuff with PBS. And then I'm a Heart of Education Award winner as well. So those 20 people they honor every year or whatever in the district, was fortunate enough to have my kids do some very good work. And the kids weren't actually given their kudos. I was giving the kudos for the students, but it is what it is. All right, herding cats. Has anyone ever heard this idiom before? What does it mean?
It means it's like a difficult task because cats are really, I've had lots of cats before, they're impossible to deal with, so you can't really actually herd them.
So cats are super imaginative. They're super independent. They do what they want. You know, you are their human, not the other way around, right? Yeah. So I like cats. I dig cats. I think cats are the greatest. My sister-in-law is allergic to cats, so I had to give away my 2 cats when I got married, which sucked, but they're at a nursing home helping seniors, so that was cool. Anyway, so I got 2 dogs now. They're not the same. Dogs are like loyal and they follow you around and stuff. Cats like, I don't even need you. Where's the food at? I can poop by myself. I don't need anything. You are just here as an appendage to me, right? So herding cats, first heard this idiom when I was teaching kindergarten. And a veteran kindergarten teacher comes in and she's like, hey, yeah, it's like herding cats. I'm like, yeah, all the kids have their own independent style. They want to do their own thing. They don't stand in line. They're jittery. They're doing spins in the middle of the classroom and stuff. So how do you take the best parts of being a cat, the independence, the imagination, the creativity, and not ferry that part out, but still organize it enough that kids are actually learning inside of a structure? Because if you think about your own experience in K-12, once you get to about middle school, they have killed the creativity in you, right? There's no more imagination and thinking about how things could be. It's like, you will do this, and then you will do this, and you will do this, and then you will leave, right? So how do we continue that creative streak inside of our students? All right, so the high concept, kind of what we're going to be talking about today is three things. Systems thinking, and that's not curriculum. Curriculum comes and goes. No one masters curriculum because there's no reason to master curriculum. So how can we approach problems with a schema, some kind of system that you set up for your students? Second, looking forward to build backwards. So backward assessment model, I'm assuming everyone is familiar with that concept, but the backward assessment model oftentimes has us looking backwards instead of saying, I know what the kid needs to learn. What are the forward-facing skills that kid could use to demonstrate that particular piece of learning, right? Third, to learn is to create. To me, in my opinion, you cannot say you demonstrated mastery if you didn't make something. Taking the test means absolutely nothing. You could have guessed, you could have failed stuff, you could have not cared, it could have been a bad day. If you build something for me, I know that you understand it, right? So those are the three ideas we're gonna kind of play around with, and we're going to be using some AI tools today. Anybody played around with AI yet? Absolutely, positively. So AI, the future, if we're not helping kids prompt engineering is going to be one of the things that is going to determine whether you get a job or not in the future. It's already one of the things that's destroying jobs right now, right? Because I have one person prompt engineer 2 other people's jobs. So that being the case, how do we get that kind of concept into our classrooms as early as possible so kids understand the importance of that? All right, cool. So when we talk about a system, organized set of doctrines, ideas, principles usually intended to explain the arrangement of working in a systemic whole. When we say system, generally in a classroom, we're talking about classroom management system, right? How do you manage the kids? Well, first of all, classroom management is kind of a disrespectful term, right? These people are so feral and, uncouth that you have to create a system to keep them in line, right? Sounds like a prison, right? So instead of classroom management system, how do I encourage you to have a shared set of values with the other people in the classroom that allows you to understand and be empathic enough to say, you know what, I'm going to contemplate my actions before I do them so that I don't hurt anybody else's feelings, that I'm considerate, et cetera, right? When we talk about systems in the classroom, again, we're not talking about curriculum, not your English book, your science book, whatever. We're talking about the ways that kids are going to move through problem solving. Great, I have a problem. My pencil broke. What are the steps I go through in order to sharpen my pencil, for example? Do I go and my teacher's in the front talking? Do I say, hey, yo, teacher person, my pencil broke? Do I interrupt? No. There has to be a schema. There has to be a system that says, when my pencil breaks, I go to my teacher's desk, I get a new pencil, I go back and sit down quietly, right? Schema for problem solving. Third, can be shared and followed with others. It shouldn't be, you have a schema, you have a schema, you have a schema, I have a schema, and we have no commonality for how we solve problems. Because then if I start to talk to you about the way I solve problems, you're going to talk, we have no way to communicate where we understand one another, right? So what is that schema that is shared by everyone in the classroom? That being the case, design thinking is such a schema. And so this is what I taught in class, no matter we're in music, we're in art, we're in writing, whatever, the kids went through this process continually. So I did not have to go and do Lucy Calkins or whatever. It was, look, we have a problem. We always have a problem. What are the problems we observed in the reading assignment that we had? What is our problem with writing? How do we know where to put nouns in a sentence, et cetera, et cetera? Everything is problems. Great. We observed a problem. Here's a list of problems that we observed. How can we solve those problems? Great. We're going to go and research how to do where nouns go in a sentence. We're going to research why 2 + 2 is 4. We're going to research why it's important to tie your shoes before you go down an escalator. All right, cool. We're going to research and observe those things, and then we're going to analyze that stuff. What kind of things did we see? Cool, here are all the things that we saw. Great. Now we're going to look for solutions to the things that we observed. Daydreaming. Daydreaming was my favorite thing to do during the day. Just like put my headphones on, sit outside, and just look in the sky. 30 minutes. You have all kind of ideas pop in your head when you're not thinking about stuff, right? So I want us to daydream. sit down and just, what kind of crazy stuff can we think about? Sharknado. Think about that pitch for Sharknado, right? Somebody walked in the room and was like, you know what? What if we made a movie about sharks in tornadoes? And somebody was like, not only did we buy it once, we bought it 7 more times, right? We were like, this is the greatest thing of all time. But if somebody wasn't insane enough to say, this is an idea, no, how much money did that person make? And they probably walked into their kids' kindergarten class. It was like, they were drawing sharks in the tornado. It was like, oh, that would make a great movie, right? So, daydream possible solutions. Then we pick one of those solutions and we prototype it. Hey, this is the one solution to that problem that we're gonna kind of roll with. Not the solution, or it's a solution to that particular problem, right? And when we start to talk about this part of the situation, one of the great ways that we can articulate this to anybody is your phone. Your phone never stops updating, correct? There's no end to your phone updating. It will constantly say, this is a security issue, so we have to patch that. Here's a new iteration of the operating system, so we're gonna push that to your phone. There is no stopping. So that prototyping and stuff like that, this is a constantly iterative process. And then that last part is the most important, but this is the one that we skip all the time, because traditional assessment is like, look, I take this test, I get an 85, I move on to the next task, right? I never go back and correct the answers that I missed. I never have a conversation with the person to say, okay, cool, this is what I thought you meant by this question. This is the reason why I may have got that question wrong. It's wrong, let's go to the next thing. So we want to improve our solutions. We want to get that in front of people. People tear it up, hey, this is cool. Why you have Yelp, right? Yelp is a wonderful thing. Why is Yelp such a cool thing? Why? And so that you either decide to go eat that restaurant, you say, look, this place is a waste of my time and money. I don't have to go and invest in that situation, right? So it's iterative. So the first question we're gonna ask ourselves is, does that solution actually solve the problem that we intended back here? And I'm gonna give it to a bunch of people, and they're gonna say, yeah, it does. Or nope, it doesn't. These parts aren't actually things that you thought about. And also that improving it. Not, I turned my project in, I got the 85 and then I left. It's, let's make your 85% project a 100% project, right? And that's not fair to everybody else in the classroom. For example, on your driver's license, how many people have driver's licenses? Excellent. What piece of information isn't on your driver's license that might be important if you think about the way traditional school works? How many times you took the driver's test, right? It does not say you took the driver's test 17. Everyone gets the same license no matter how many times you took the driver's test. And no one has beef with that. No one has beef with it, right? You just get in your car, you drive your car. No one says, oh my goodness, he got 3 more times to get to 100. No, that's not fair. He got 85 on the first time. No one says that. You just get in your car and you drive. Now, you can go and try to Google this, because I've done this multiple times. There have been no studies that conclusively state that the number of times it took you to take the driver's exam means that you have more accidents over your lifetime. No studies that say that conclusively. But in school, it's unfair if I take a test more than once. Super interesting concept. Super interesting. Now, if you're interested in design thinking, IDEO has a very, very conclusive PDF called Design Thinking for Educators. It is an amazing book. You just download it. It's 126 pages, so it gets a little long, but it's a really, really good book. IDEO is out of the Stanford School of Design. They have lots of free events and things online for teachers and students and everybody to do. I work at edX, which we'll see at the very end of our presentation here. Do a lot of things with design thinking for educators in the Valley as well. So design thinking is my jam. All right, so we got our exposition done, rising action. All right, so looking forward to not look backwards, or looking backwards to look forwards. I hope I'm not dating myself. Everyone knows what moonwalking is, correct? Okay, cool. All right, sometimes I gotta ask, when you start to, sometimes, like, a kid called me a boomer the other day, and I was like, I'm too young to be a boomer, so no, that's not actually true. So, super weird. Anyway, moonwalking. What we do traditionally in education is we're looking backwards and we're like moving like this, right? We're not actually looking forward to the skills that this kid is going to need in order to survive. We're saying, in the past, this has been true. But as technology is rapidly advancing, those things become less and less true, right? Again, the AI has only really been big for the last 6 months. And if you go Google the number of jobs that are probably going to be impacted by this negatively, that list is growing every day. So how do you, if the job of an educator is college and career readiness, right? One of the things you need to be very aware of is what skills is the college and career going to be necessary for you to do, right? So, important. Second, lean into enduring skills. If you're nice to somebody, does that ever get old? Absolutely not. Being able to shake somebody's hand, smile at somebody, whatever. Most people get jobs because of who they know, not what they know, right? So, how do we make sure that kids are congenial? They're able to converse with people. They can look people in the eye. They can shake people's hands. They can, they have, enough general knowledge that if they were to run into somebody, they're able to converse about subjects that are important as civil people, right? And then third, identifying vestigial parts of instruction. You are going to be going into the school district. The school district has lots of parts that shouldn't be parts of the school district anymore. Can anyone, if you look back on your own education and learning the things that you're learning now, what's something that you would probably eliminate if you were the Clark County School District Superintendent? Anything. You would say, this is probably a waste of time. Why are we doing it? Anybody? Yes.
I would say spreading high school out along a stream of 4 years, and maybe you could be doing your first 2 years of college because you have the time. I went to a vocational high school, and I basically got all of my credits done in the first 2 years, and then the next 2 years, my junior, senior year, I was working on a vocation. And I'm like, why is high school 4 years? It could be, you could be doing other things. You could be learning other things in your junior, senior year instead of, I don't know.
Why are we still grouping people chronologically?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. So you say every 7-year-old knows what every other 7-year-old knows? No, that doesn't make, does every 35-year-old know what every other 35-year-old knows? Like, when does that logic stop? So, absolutely. I should be able to go as quickly as I need to, as slowly as I need to in order to master whatever the content is. Absolutely. Anybody else? Something vestigial. Handwriting practice. No need for handwriting practice anymore. When's the last time you wrote something for your boss and turned it in on a sheet of paper? Doesn't happen anymore. So, for us to take large swaths of time to teach a kid how to make an A, it's not smart anymore. I need to identify what an A looks like, but not, it took you 35 times to practice the A skill again that in the grand scheme of things doesn't actually benefit you. It's important for older folks because that's the way we learn. I love to doodle and to journal and stuff like that. I see lots of people with notebooks and stuff. Absolutely, right? But if you have a situation where a student is taking like large, taking hours to learn how to make an A, what was the point? Which my wife is a school associate superintendent. She disagrees with me on a lot of stuff. So I'm speaking as myself. Again, there's lots of stuff I would change, but it is what it is. All right, cool. Just because we needed a topic in order to build our little project today, we're going to talk about food chains because I'm working with 5th graders on food chains right now. So you are probably familiar with the basics of a food chain, right? All right, we don't have to go into deep. In your program, are you all learning how to design inside of Canvas, the learning management system? Okay, so some people are learning. So that inside Canvas. So the learning management system for the state of Nevada and for Clark County School District is Canvas. So you would be expected to teach in Canvas. So I'm going to speak as if you are a Clark County School District teacher right now, and we're going to say that Canvas is the way that we would actually give our instruction to our students, all right? So we're going to talk about food chains. Wonderful. How traditionally would you assess a student's knowledge of a food chain? Yes.
I thought it was like a research project.
Research project. Absolutely. Yes.
I kind of like the idea of like just brainstorming it in the beginning and
No.
get an idea of what everyone knows, like as a community to the classroom.
Okay, cool, cool. So, but how would you determine what one person knew?
I could probably give them like some kind of like diagram.
Okay, and have them fill in the diagram?
Fill it out individually.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Art project. What do you mean by art project? Be a little bit more specific.
Have them design their food chain or however, whatever way they want to show how to do it.
Absolutely. Could you have them design a conversation? Play? Absolutely. But think about the time and effort it would take to grade all the plays, right? Again, mad entertaining. But the amount of stress that you're going to have as a teacher and stuff, perhaps you don't want something that's going to be spread out that long. You got to deal with this. You know, that's a lot of work to be doing. Really cool, but it's a lot of effort, right? So we're going to design a assessment in like 5 minutes. So if you want a copy of the Padlet and stuff, it's there. I'm going to make sure you all get a link to this presentation so you have everything inside of it anyway. But if you want to kind of see what it looks like, there it is. Anyone used Padlets before? Padlets are the greatest. It is worth the investment. So Padlets are really, really cool. Padlet, P-A-D-L-E-T. Yep, definitely a cool way to do stuff. All right, so that's got all the links to the tools that we're going to play around with, and this is all AI stuff. And AI is not scary. It's not the end of mankind. It's not going to replace all the humans. It is a collaborative tool that once you learn how to manipulate it, you can do a lot of really, really cool stuff. Again, I'm not somebody who can draw, so graphic design and stuff has always been a challenge for me, but collaboration with AI has helped me out. We're good? Looks like we're good. All right, cool. All right, cool. So the Padlet looks something like this. All the links for the AI tools that we're going to utilize are there. We're going to build. Now, first, Andy. Andy is a search engine that is AI powered. It is good because it embeds in Canvas. So my kids don't have to Google search and stuff. I can keep everything in one spot. If you're somebody who's teaching kindergarten or first grade and stuff like that, you don't want the kids going all over the internet. You want them to stay in one spot. This kind of tool keeps it there. The other thing is, remember I just said designing a conversation? The cool thing about AI is you're talking to it. It's not, find me, X, Y, and Z. I can have a conversation. So you can work on your kids' interview skills. You can work on your kids' interpretive skills. You can work on description, right? It might give you something that you don't want. It's usually because you didn't describe what you wanted in detail enough. So what I want is explain food chains to me as if I were a fourth grader. And Andy says, all right, cool. It gives me its answer. I can continue to ask it more questions or whatever. I can give it examples. Say I want a food chain that has like worms in it or whatever, but it's also going to give me all of the traditional stuff inside of a search engine. The thing that I like about this is I can say, I want you to summarize the thing for me. I don't feel like reading all that. There's a paragraph, bada bing. That gives me the gist of the situation. Now, that is not cheating. People, oh my goodness, it's cheating. The kid didn't read the whole thing. If I don't have to read the whole thing to understand what's going on, why would I waste my time? All right, cool. I'm a big music person. I got my phone, my phone has all my favorite albums on it, et cetera, et cetera. Is it cheating that I don't have to bring my whole bag of CDs with me everywhere I go? It's not cheating, right? So when people, oh, it's cheating, you're learning for free. No, dude, I'm doing this quickly, all right? Cool, that's the paragraph. It tells me everything I need to know right there. Now, if I want to go to the thing and actually read it, by God, go waste your time and do that. But the paragraph tells me all the information I need. Cool, quickly, got it done. I can read it inside of Andy as well, so I don't even have to leave Andy in order to do that. If I've got a screen reader or something like that, I'm good to go. Bada bing. This is Andy's write-up for me. It's generating the text for me, so I now have to do it. So Andy is telling me exactly what needs to happen. Great. This is great for your ESL kids. It's great for kids who are just learning language, your kindergarten and first grade friends. This is great for students who might be super shy like I was in school. I may not open up to the person beside me. Anybody else is kind of an introverted person. That when they say, hey, you got to talk to this other person, and you're like, dude, I don't really want to talk to this other person. I'm cool by myself. Now I have somebody I can collaborate with in that one-to-one situation, right? So cool. We're going to pretend that we read a whole bunch of stuff about food chains. Great. So what's the next little hustle here? Climax here. Now, As I said before, if you don't create something, I don't care that you learned it. 3 things. Learning requires invention is validation. I've got to, with a poster, an art project, or whatever, it's got to be something that I can explain to you. Traditional assessment is easier, not better. How many people have guessed on a standardized test and been right? So, great. I got a 95, and like 25% of those questions were guesses. And suddenly, oh yeah, you know, he knows what he's doing. Okay. Creation opens opportunities for variation. Variation is what we want, right? No one in the room should have the same project if we give a project out, an art project, right? It should all be different stuff. Your experiences should be different, all that wonderful stuff. So we want variation because we also want to see kids see different ways of doing a thing. So let's write a song about food chains. So beatbox, AI, music tool. I've used this with kindergartners. I've used this with middle schoolers. I use this with high schoolers. Everybody can do it. Super easy. Now, all we need to do is learn how to prompt engineer here. So beatbox wants 2 different things. It wants a description of the song and the style of music you want it to be. That's all it needs. So once you teach the kids what the actual prompts looks like, now it's just following directions. So let's say a food chain. What do food chains begin with? The sun. What's a producer we could use? Producer, a plant. Somebody said something? We don't know food chains. Let's say grass. What's something that eats grass? Cows. What's something that eats a cow? Humans. What happens to humans? They die and they are decomposed by what? Let's say worms. All right, cool. What's a style of music or musician that we can emulate in the song? Who? EDM? Let's see what this sounds like. All right, cool. So the AI is going to write the lyrics for us, and it's going to create the soundtrack. What we're going to do is evaluate the AI. Is what it creates accurate? We have no speakers. Oh, here it is. All right, so started with the sun, is that correct? Yes. Life to grass, the sun gives life to grass, okay, cool. Cows eat the grass, is that true? Yes. Does. And the humans eat the cows? Yes. All right, cool. Worms feed on the leftovers of the humans? Yes, they would eat us. A cycle that's here to last, would that continue in perpetuity? Yes. All of us connected? Yes. And we live in past as we go around and around. Did the AI do it correctly? Yes. Absolutely. So your students would go and take that song and say, I would evaluate the song, great. This has all the pieces of the food chain. It's all accurate. We're good to go. I can copy that link and send it to you. I can tweet it if you've got like 18-year-olds, I guess. You can download the song as well because you can do other stuff with it. You could also retry it and start again. So we decided we don't do EDM. We're going to do like Pat Benatar or I don't know, whatever else kind of things you want to deal with. So super quick, could I determine if a kid understood a food chain if they produced a song like this? Absolutely. And that song is 12 seconds long or something like that. I don't have to read a 5-paragraph essay. I'm just like, in 12 seconds, I know if the kid got it or not. Done. Great. We're good. Bob is finished. And we can have like the food chain playlist inside the classroom where everyone's songs are there. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's jam to the food chain songs, right? But super quick, and also it's not cheating. Great. This is the example I made before. I got my prompt. Pat Benatar is what I use just because I was trying to be funny. There's Pat Benatar's deal. Great. Now, let's extend it and say, okay, cool. Let's make an album cover because it's not cool enough to make the song. Let's make the album cover, all right? So now, kid, we're going to use a different tool. Stable Diffusion will allow us to build graphic design just with prompts again. So got to learn what the language of Stable Diffusion is, And there's a prompt generator there. And the cool thing about this is it gives me this in different little pieces. Great, I can do a short prompt, I can do a prettified, very detailed prompt, or I can just upload a picture and say I want this in a particular style. And so Stable Diffusion doesn't cost anything at all. There's also a way to search prompts. So you can see, look, these are other ideas that people came up with. I can copy their ideas. So say I want like, I don't know, the future. I don't know what that means. So let's see what the future looks like. Cool. So I've got all these like weird futuristic things, and their prompts are underneath. So how they got them are there. So I don't have to like make it up. I can just say, okay, cool. This is what this person actually used. What pieces of these pictures do I like? Great. I can just steal pieces of those prompts, put it inside there and change it. But I'm going to start from the beginning just because I want to keep mine really, really slow, really easy. So we want a prompt about, so I'm going to go to the playground really quick. Anybody have a favorite artist? A visual artist that you really dig? Visual artist that you really dig. You're like, this person's amazing. Pablo Picasso. So let's say an album cover featuring a human eating a hamburger, Picasso style. Now he had many periods, so let's just say, let's see what it says interprets Picasso style. And again, we can make that a lot more detailed, which is what I could work with that. Again, totally free. It works on the Chromebook, so if you have, your kids have Chromebooks and stuff, this works fine on the Chromebooks. Great, cool. That's what it's saying that Pablo Picasso style looks like. I'm not a Pablo Picasso expert. All right, so there we go. So, cool, quick, fine, Danny. Yes. How many minutes?
The next session will start in 5 minutes.
All right, cool, that's there. All right, cool. All right, cool. Stable Diffusion there. Let's just skip very, really quickly. So that was an example of me doing Basquiat. This is Basquiat with a hawk and an eagle. All right, cool. Headliners is the extension here. Very, very cool tool. Allows you to take audio in the graphics and put those things together. And I'm going to do, once you get the actual presentation, you'll see that example there. Great. Testing and feedback is very important. I'm not going to do it here because I don't have time. But we want to continually be in this iterative process where kids are doing something, getting feedback for it, and then improving what they're doing, not just the learning ends, right? And then lastly, we don't have time for questions, comments, concerns, and beauty tips. Find me at lunch if you have questions, concerns, or beauty tips. This is my consultancy's website, part of the Intelligent Hoodlums. It's intelligenthoodlums.com. It's stuff we do, weird stuff all the time. She and I are always in the Valley, my business partner Webbs and I. This is my W-2 job, my day job. There we go. So at Extraordinary, we are research and developers at part of Teach for America Las Vegas. We go into schools and kind of like do assessments and help people figure out how to do the AI in their classrooms and things like that. So when you become a Clark County School District teacher, look us up. We'd love to co-create with you and collaborate with you in order to bring some of the cool stuff into your classroom. And if you want to get in touch, there are my bona fides there. Mike at theintelligenthoodlums.com is my email, and then at Chocolate Teacher for my Twitter. Chocolate Teacher, because when I taught in Taiwan, I was the only black guy in the city. And so they would come through and say, Chocolate Lao Sure, which is Chocolate Teacher. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to run with that. So super cool. Definitely enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you got something out of the presentation. Good luck and Godspeed, and we'll see you at lunch.